Matt Riddle, former UFC fighter, former WWE superstar, former next big thing. Upon his arrival to pro wrestling, fans around the world saw Matt Riddle as a future star, having a confident swagger that can only be seen by those high on life. Riddle's MMA background made him one of the most dangerous men in the WWE. His in-ring style is unlike any other, and fans have been in love with Riddle's personality since the moment he took the mic. However, behind those happy red eyes comes a man who has seen multiple dreams crushed and a warrior with a lot of mistakes in his past. My name is Grish from Wrestleology, and today I want to take a look at Matt Riddle's time in WWE. But before talking about Riddle's time in WWE, we should first briefly go over his run in the UFC. There, despite having an impressive 8-win and 3-loss record, in 2013 Matt was shunned out of the promotion by Dana White himself after failing 2 drug tests for marijuana.
It's because he could not pass a drug test. The guy couldn't pass a drug test.
Not only did this overrule a few of those fights in his record, but it also left Riddle extremely bitter. He would go on to make comments about Dana White, saying that Dana seemed to target him. White responded on Fox Sports, publicly burying Riddle by calling him stupid on television, and since then, Riddle has suggested that both men reacted rather harshly, with Riddle now suggesting that Dana should have responded with help and guidance rather than public humiliation. No matter what side of it you're on, this drew more attention towards Matt Riddle, which he happily took advantage of heading into the pro wrestling world. And upon entering that new world, fans were delighted to see that Riddle was a natural. Using his skills from MMA and his more entertaining side of his personality, something that the UFC fans saw during the fight panels, Matt was primed for wrestling. And after spending about 4 years on the indies, Riddle became one of the hottest stars on the independent circuit due to not only his natural ability, but his rather unique fighting style. Utilizing his MMA background, he supercharged his moveset by prioritizing his connection with the audience while having explosive offense in the ring. He wrestles barefoot, making him more unique to fans, harking back to the fact that he fought barefoot over in MMA. And with his 420 lifestyle already public knowledge, he quickly appealed to the fans as the stoner guy able to kick your damn head in. Impressing in places like PWG, Rev Pro, and especially Evolve, WWE soon gave him the phone call to make his way over to NXT. Showing up in the crowd of NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4, Riddle would quickly impress NXT crowds through the next few takeovers. After beating Cassius Ohno at TakeOver War Games 2 in 6 seconds, and after defeating him again at TakeOver Phoenix, it was clear that Triple H saw great potential in Riddle, handing him an undefeated streak heading into his first title match at TakeOver New York. There, he would suffer his first loss in the WWE to Velveteen Dream, losing his chance at becoming the NXT North American Champion. From there, Riddle would enter an underrated feud with Killian Dane. Sure, on paper this seems like a pretty average mid-card story, and it is, but with Riddle being able to explode in intensity, with Dane always able to go to absolute war with his opponents, the two were able to put on a pair of thrilling street fights at the beginning of NXT's time on the USA Network. Out of this, Riddle was able to challenge Adam Cole for the NXT title in another fun TV match, losing to the leader of the Undisputed Era. And around this time, Finn Balor made his return to NXT to turn heel on Johnny Gargano, cementing his status in the promotion as one of the most dangerous bad guys on the show. And when Balor called the NXT roster weak, specifically calling out Riddle by name, their feud would begin heading into Riddle's next loss against Balor at TakeOver War Games 2019. Yes, despite remaining as one of NXT's hottest stars, Riddle had begun to trail off the path of success following multiple big losses both at TakeOver and on NXT TV. So management decided to help steer him back on track by giving him a threatening tag team partner, Pete Dunne. Entering the 2020 Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, the BroserWeights would quickly become one of the most popular teams on the show. Riddle's laid-back attitude and Dunne's hyper-series European background made them a perfect odd couple tag team, and combine that with a series of thrilling matches, and fans were willing them on heading into the finals of the tournament. On January 29th, the two earned the Dusty Cup by last eliminating the grizzled young veterans from the tournament, becoming the #1 contenders for the NXT Tag Team titles. And after a few more funny skits that helped the crowd fall ever more in love with the team, Riddle and Dunne were able to use that energy to defeat Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish for those belts. As Matt celebrated his first taste of gold, the rest of the world would come to a grinding halt due to the rest of the pandemic. And with Dunne now not able to travel to the US due to COVID restrictions, Riddle was forced into teaming up with Dunne's replacement, Timothy Thatcher, per Dunne's request. Another good worker, absolutely, but Riddle didn't have nearly as much much entertaining chemistry with Thatcher as he did with Dunn. And with this chemistry not working in NXT, Thatcher saw the writing on the wall and let Riddle get pinned in their match against Imperium for the gold, walking out on his former partner. And after the BroserWeights became one of the biggest tag teams in NXT, Thatcher would put an end to this partnership only a few months later. And this brought them to the May 27th edition of NXT, where they fought in the first ever Fight Pit match. Their special guest referee Kurt Angle watched as Thatcher was able to submit Riddle with a sleeper hold, defeating the original Bro. However, despite this loss, Kurt Angle still saw something in Matt Riddle. So a few minutes later on SmackDown, Angle announced that he would be moving out of NXT and onto the Blue brand. Before continuing on, as Riddle was getting heated up for his main roster call-up, a story online broke out that hung a dark cloud over his name. In the summer of 2020, Riddle was accused of essaying a fellow wrestler during his time in the Indies, also claiming that he cheated on his wife with her. Riddle admitted to cheating, but denied any of the assault allegations, stating that everything was consensual.
I have never in my entire life sexually assaulted a man, woman, or anybody.
And while the lawsuit was ultimately dropped in 2021, this cloud does still hang over Riddle's name for some fans, and I thought it would be kind of like weird not to mention it, especially with how this may have played a key role in some of Matt's personal issues during his time on the main roster. But with Riddle now on SmackDown, WWE wanted to prove right away that he could be a big deal for the show, putting a lot of stock into him despite any controversy surrounding his name. Debuting against Intercontinental Champion AJ Styles, Riddle would impress fans by defeating Styles in a non-title match, leading to a rematch for the gold a month later. There, he would fail to capture the title before being attacked by Baron Corbin, leading to their match at Payback and Riddle's first pay-per-view victory on the main roster. In such a short amount of time, Riddle was able to defeat established names like Baron Corbin and champions like AJ Styles, making him someone fans kept their eyes on for the foreseeable future. Riddle, after just moving from NXT to SmackDown months prior, would end up on Raw during the 2020 draft. With his name shortened from Matt Riddle to just Riddle, he would help Team Raw at Survivor Series as they defeated SmackDown in a clean sweep. With all of this momentum behind him, Riddle soon turned his attention towards the United States Championship, now held by Bobby Lashley, a member of the Hurt Business by this point. Riddle took on the uphill battle for months over the title. Despite beating him in a non-title match, Lashley remained champion throughout their feud. That is, until a triple threat match between Lashley, Riddle, and John Morrison gave Riddle the opportunity to finally capture the title, his first taste of gold on the main roster. During this run with the United States Championship, Riddle learned the hard way that more than just your name can change after moving from NXT to Vince McMahon's insane WWE. He would soon get a scooter, infamously botching his promo with Asuka about it. Great start there. Then on top of that, WWE would give Riddle these weird bird CGI things. I'm gonna be honest, Vince had no idea what he was doing with Riddle. With Riddle being a naturally laid back and goofy guy outside the ring, maybe Vince decided that birds flying out of his flip-flops was also, I don't know, goofy? I don't know. Late Vince era was really bad and Pandemic Wrestling only made it worse. Heading into WrestleMania 37, however, Riddle would have to contend with not only these off-booking choices, but also the Celtic Warrior Sheamus. After several back and forth attacks leading into the show, an enticing match for the United States title was made for night 2 of the event. There, they put on a stiff bout that concluded with Sheamus catching Riddle in a breathtaking brogue kick as Riddle went for a springboard moonsault. With that, Sheamus was able to defeat the champion, leaving Riddle with a rather short first title reign on Raw. Without a title and without a clear direction, Riddle came up with a rather interesting idea. Riddle wanted to form a new team with Randy Orton, and after approaching the Viper and after defeating Orton in an exhibition match on Raw, Randy Orton would soon come to agree to be Riddle's tag team partner. With the team now going by RK Bro, the new babyface Orton would find himself picking up a lot of momentum alongside the young hot star, even going so far as to walk into SummerSlam the #1 contenders to the Raw Tag Team Championship. championships. And after weeks of attacks by AJ Styles and Omos, RK Bro were able to fight through the pain to win the belts. Throughout their run, RK Bro would become quite an exciting tag team. As Riddle continued his usual goofball antics, Randy's harder exterior would slowly melt away. For months, Riddle and Orton would act as the most entertaining act on the show, with Riddle doing outlandish things like riding a camel to the ring as Orton reacted alongside the WWE Universe in awe. For the first time in a long time, Orton looked to be having fun in this tag team, with Riddle quickly becoming the highlight of Monday Night Raw. After briefly losing the titles to Alpha Academy on Raw, RK Bro would win back the gold heading into WrestleMania 38, and there they were able to make their own WrestleMania moment as they retained the belts against Alpha Academy and the Street Profits in a triple threat tag team match. From there, Riddle saw his stock rise even higher. Not only was he teaming with the bona fide main eventer in Randy Orton, but he was about to start a feud with the Bloodline and become a part of the WWE title scene. The Usos, in the hunt to become the definitive best team in WWE, decided that they wanted to unify their SmackDown Tag Team Championships with the Raw one. At WrestleMania Backlash, the Bloodline of Jay, Jimmy, and Roman defeated Drew McIntyre and RK Bro ahead of the title unification match on the May 20th, 2022 episode of SmackDown. There, the Bloodline planted their name into history once again as the Usos left with RK Bro's Raw Tag Gold. During that match, Randy Orton suffered a severe back injury that took him out of action for the rest of the year. And with Orton gone, Riddle continued to fight on behalf of his fallen friend against the Bloodline. Despite having a replacement partner in Shinsuke Nakamura, Riddle was unable to recapture the tag team titles from the Usos. But with a victory over Sami Zayn, a noted ally of the Bloodline at that time, Riddle earned a shot at Roman's undisputed WWE Championship. During their match for the gold on the June 17th edition of SmackDown, Reigns was able to catch Riddle as he flew through the air, nailing him with a spear to retain the title. First Sheamus, and now Roman. Maybe Riddle should think about avoiding any springboard moves from now on. Either way, as per the added stipulation, Riddle was now no longer allowed to challenge Roman Reigns for the title, thus ending their feud. In Riddle's personal life, things also weren't looking too much better. Professionally, Riddle was hovering around the main event picture, but in reality, he was suffering through a divorce with his then wife of over a decade, and his children also being taken away by their mother. We don't know why they separated, but after seeing Riddle's past with the allegation and then the marijuana use that took him out of UFC, you can only imagine the tension that all of that had built through their relationship. But like I said, I don't know anything about it, so I'm not really gonna assume things. Riddle, heartbroken and not sure what to do, soon found himself also having to deal with Seth Rollins in the build-up to SummerSlam. Quickly, things got personal, with Rollins injuring Riddle before their SummerSlam match, postponing the bout, and while Riddle got a small amount of revenge by attacking Seth at SummerSlam, the feud would soon become a lot more heated on Raw. And perhaps the biggest moment of their rivalry, a dual satellite interview took place between Rollins and Riddle. And with Seth not sitting in the same room as Riddle, he felt free to bring up Riddle's divorce to try to get a rise out of him. Riddle, now at a boiling point, cussed out Seth on an otherwise PG show, adding to the realism of the segment and the intensity of the feud. Their match was supercharged with emotion heading into Clash at the Castle, where Seth was able to pick up the win following a curb stomp off the middle rope. Riddle, unsatisfied by the loss, wanted a special kind of rematch at Extreme Rules. A fight pit match was announced, with the former UFC champion Daniel Cormier announced as the special guest referee for this out-of-control feud. And despite losing the first fight pit match in NXT to Timothy Thatcher, Riddle was able to get the job done on this occasion by forcing Seth to submit. Riddle would spend the next few months lingering around on Raw, reigniting his feud with the Bloodline in the process, teaming up with the likes of Elias and the New Day in various matches against them. As a part of the feud, Solo Sikoa kayfabe injured Riddle. In reality, this was designed to write Riddle off to serve out a 60-day suspension after violating the wellness policy. And during an interview with Ariel Helwani, Riddle himself revealed that he tested positive for the cocaina. Around this time as well, Riddle began dating adult film actress Misha Montana. After divorcing only a couple months earlier, Riddle was now dating a prawn star, and his drug use had clearly increased. The couple later announced in July that they were expecting their first child together, which would be Riddle's fourth child overall. Upon his return in April, Riddle's seemed to be stuck in a holding pattern. He continued to fight on behalf of the injured Randy Orton, restarting his feud with the Bloodline, but while he may have been a hyper over-the-top goofy character before, this version of him was a lot more serious. By this point, Triple H had begun changing the WWE main roster, and he clearly saw a more intense version of Riddle than Vince did. Sure, he still had a lot of fun with the audience, but you could tell that he was becoming more vicious in his demeanor, a tricky balancing act that Riddle had been great at since even before the WWE. At Money in the Bank, Riddle temporarily targeted Gunther's Intercontinental Championship, but failed to capture the belt before going right back after the Bloodline. However, despite finding a new ally in Drew McIntyre in his war against Roman, Riddle would announce his departure from WWE on Twitter. While Riddle has claimed that the UFC and WWE merger might have something to do with it, he said in other interviews that the true reason for his release seems pretty cut and dry. By this stage in Riddle's life, he had become unpredictable and clearly was going through a lot of personal issues, even before getting, adult actresses pregnant, even before divorcing the mother of his first 3 kids, even before his main roster call-up. Riddle had a looming cloud hanging over him. He was a pretty controversial figure, and Riddle admitted to this, with him being someone that doesn't quite match up with WWE's policies. However, despite all the controversy surrounding Matt Riddle, fans still tune in to see what the original bro has to offer. Yes, perhaps his personality outside the ring has led some to react harshly towards the former United States champion, but Riddle still has a likable charm about him that continues to win the world over. Sure, perhaps the audience is small, especially when compared to WWE, but Riddle is still out there, smoking it up and kicking ass on the independents. Hopefully, after all he went through over the past decade or so, Riddle has been able to grow and learn through all this, and hearing him in interviews, he does seem to have grown in one way or another, speaking with a lot more humility these days as he fully understands why WWE had to let him go. But will he come back to WWE? I'd say never. After all, I'd still love to see RK Bro get one last run, and I still think that given enough time and growth, Riddle could finally be ready for that main roster push that he was seemingly earmarked for. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed.